Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday night. It's a question and answer night, but we're also having a special guest, Kevin, the Basic Filmmaker. So I'll be bringing him here in a minute. But first, I wanted to say hello. I started out, what time is it? 1, 2, 3, 6 hours ago. I was 250 miles north of here, and it was 6-mile walk from the road out in my family's bush cabin. So my kids and I made our annual trip out there, and then hiked out this morning and drove the 250 miles back home, which for a while I wasn't sure if I was going to make it, but we made it. So good to have you all here. Good to be here with you all in much warmer conditions than I was in earlier. So tonight, as always, if this is your first time in the stream, tonight is about questions and answers. So if you have questions about camera gear, about drones, about what you should work on, or things that you're having trouble with, especially for filming and photography, then ask away. And Kevin and I will do our best to keep up with the chat, though we will probably get sidetracked on a rant or two. Well, if I'm being honest, we probably won't make it to a second rant if we start a first rant. It'll be the first rant all the way through. So, but we will try and keep up with the chat and answer questions as we go. So, but for those of you that don't know, Kevin is, I think I found his channel a few years ago. Okay, more than a few years ago, looking for some green screen stuff. And that's how I found his channel. And then somehow or another, he and I bumped shoulders and connected and started interchanges on Twitter and stuff like that. And then we've becoming friends. So he's a great channel. If you don't know him, you should definitely check him out, because he's lots of really good, really straightforward filmmaking tips, which I feel like a lot of filmmaking channels get into the weeds, where if you don't know what they're talking about, you can't even begin to understand what they're talking about, because you just have to have a certain level of skill to really keep up with a lot of them. Whereas if you don't have a really high level of skill, but you want to learn, Kevin's channel is fantastic for that. So everybody, please welcome Kevin, the Basic Filmmaker, and hopefully we can hear you.
Woo! Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
We doing a rant?
I don't know if anybody else can.
So we're doing a rant? Yeah!
No, we're trying not to do a rant, but if we do, that's probably going to be it for the rest of the night.
I'm sure someone will trigger us with something, and we'll just be like,
it'll be going. So first off, Kevin, thanks for being here. I appreciate making time and jumping on the stream. And
thanks for having me.
So I gave you a little bit of an intro, but would you mind just telling everybody a little bit more about you and what your channel's about? And
a little bit of an intro? Man, I'm going to hire you as my marketing and PR guy. That was it.
I'm not saying that I can't be bought, but, I could probably be bought.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about being bought. That'll get us going on a rant.
Oh, man, it will.
I've had a channel for years. It's doing very well, and I just go to the basics. My main shtick, is that still a word? Is that a word?
Sure.
Shtick.
Yeah.
Shtick. See, I always sound like I'm saying something cool, and sometimes I use words I don't even know what they mean. I've gotten in plenty of trouble doing that, by the way. My main channel, what it does is, I have a long background, blah, 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 blah. Okay, done. And I realized that there's a lot of people, when I first started, coming into filmmaking and video and YouTube, and they don't have a freaking clue. And they go to a channel, not Jake's channel, by the way. They go to a channel.
Oh, thank you.
And, they're talking about, well, you should get this camera, and the Sony a7S III has got 422, it's got this, and it's 10-bit, and blah, blah. And these people who are walking in this going, hey, I want to pick up a camera, and I want to maybe start a YouTube channel, are blown away by the terminology and everything else. So I make really basic stuff, and I say, hey, here's a camera. Here's how you turn it on. Here's how you use it. Here's how you frame it, etc. My mouth's tired. What's next? Oh, and I have a really huge sense of humor. So if you don't like my humor and I'm not your cup of tea, that's okay. You could just complain to Jake. His email is complaints@jakesloan.com.
That's right. That goes right into a special folder, right along with the super hypercritical hater comments that go into my YouTube channel. They all go to the same folder.
Hey,
which
I
is the
saw a
customer complaints
Go ahead.
department.
I saw a comment in here and it got my attention. Can
Yes.
I'm basically going to take over your live stream. Welcome to the Kevin Show. My guest today is Jake.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Actually, I am having you on Saturday, so that's gonna be fun.
I can't wait.
That's
It's gonna
gonna
be
be
exciting.
fun.
So, and then also for if you follow Kevin, you know, but a few weeks ago, his channel was hacked and subsequently deleted, and he spent the last 3 weeks staying very calm, cool, and collected, at least publicly to the rest of us that saw the public side of him, and not pulling his hair out. And
Well.
fortunately, YouTube was able to restore it and put it back together. So I'm really glad you got your channel back, because
Yeah.
that was that'd
Let's
be
talk
terrifying.
about that. You know, the comment. Boy, I'm not triggered by that. The comment, and I can't find it. Anyway, somebody was at. Oh, there it is, from Logan. Mr. Murder. Debating on the
Yeah, I know.
A7 III or the A6400 right now. Currently have the Canon 6 T6i. This guy will tell you exactly what to do. I know what my opinion is. Because out of all your comments, that's the only thing I know about. I'm joking.
So what is your opinion on that? Because that'd be a good one to jump into.
Quit messing around and get the Sony A7S III. You'll be good for the next couple of years. Buy a bunch of lenses. Jake has affiliate links below. See, that's
true.
That's kind
I
of
do
like
have
paying.
affiliate
You're right.
links.
Actually, Jake is the one who talked me into, not true, who consulted me a lot on my camera. I started with a Canon T3i. I moved to a Canon 5D Mark III. I used it for years, like up until even a year ago. Beautiful camera, but it doesn't shoot 4K. Well, you know what? I was posting doubled up 4K videos for a year over there, and nobody said anything. And after looking at the Canon R5, R6, the C70, the cinema camera, and all sorts of things, because I wanted to go into a camera that would last me like my 5D Mark III for 5 years, and I wanted another 5 years. And talking to Jake a lot, he turned me on to the Sony A7S III. I read the specs. I did a lot of research. It's a lot of money. It's $3,500. I tried Canon adapters for my glass. They sucked. They worked great for photography. They sucked. And then finally I decided to go with the Sony A7S III and the new lenses. It was a leap because it's a whole new ecosystem and menus and everything else. It is, and I've seen all the new cameras, blah, blah, blah. Whatever camera you want to use. Use a phone, fine, great. But as far as buying a new camera, doing videos, getting great shots, is the best money since my 5D Mark III I've ever spent on any camera. I got a lot of cameras. There's one there. There's one there. There's another two down there. That is the bomb. So my suggestion is be nice to your boss, your wife, your spouse, your significant other, your kids, your mom, your dad, your grandparents, or whatever. Just collect up some money and get that camera and then never look back.
Yeah, I agree. We did have there's another question. Mike Farley asks, which would you buy? He already owns an A7 II. He wants to buy a second camera for weddings. Would you get the A7 III or A6600? And Mike, I would, if you're doing primarily video work, I would get either the A6600 or I would probably actually lean toward the A7C, because it's a really, really good autofocus system, the little flip out screen and stuff. and it's full frame, so you still get really good low light performance. The A6600 is great too, but not being full frame, it's a little worse on low light performance. But it does have a better autofocus system than the A7 III, and I think I would say that I would agree with Kevin 100% because I use the A7S III and it's fantastic. But if you don't have $3,500 and you do primarily video work, then the next best option would be the A7C, in my opinion, mostly for video work. But if you do photo work, then the A7 III for sure, because it's full frame. But if you can go for the A7S III, it's so nice. It's so good.
Well, I did that. I was talked into. I hate saying that. How do you say that
You're
better?
talking to. I twisted your arm.
I was consulted by another person 6 or 7 years ago to go with the Canon 5D Mark III. And it was, with the 24 to 105 lens, it was like $4,500. That's a lot of freaking coin. I look back on that, best decision I ever made. Besides, we all know you should use a Sony A7S III, edit in Premiere Pro. What else can I throw in? And use a Mac, and there. That ought to get some people going.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have to disagree with you on the Premiere Pro part, but we'll save that for another day.
Well, I figure, why should we
video...
rant? Why should we rant? We'll just get everybody else rant against each other.
We'll let everybody else start ranting in the chat. And then Tommy Calloway is here too.
Yes.
So he's somebody I'm going to have on the stream hopefully the next week or two. But and if you ask him, he'll say, don't buy a camera, buy lights, because you've got to have good lighting for any camera you have. And it's true. You do have to have good lighting for a
There's
camera to
something
look
to be
its
said
best.
for, I mean, Tommy's done a great job of changing a lot of people's mind. I mean, really,
Oh, yeah.
if I had a T, what was it, 6i? And I get, it has whatever it has. If you really bled out of that everything that you can bleed out of it, and if so, fine. But, and I know it was probably a photography question, but from a video, have you really bled everything you can out of that? Have you, like, how's your audio? If you're making videos, is your audio like, okay, I'll buy a new camera. Go get microphones and audio recorders and lights and things, and then upgrade the cameras, my opinion.
Yeah. I agree 100%, because everybody always thinks about getting a better camera. Well, and this is actually something we're going to be talking about tonight as the night goes on, but that getting a better camera will fix things, and to a certain extent, going from a really, really horrible camera to a nicer camera will make a difference. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of other things you can do to improve your quality. Lighting, sound are two of those massive improvements that you can invest a lot less money into and see a bigger improvement than going from a $1,500 to $2,000 camera to a $3,500 or $4,500 camera. You don't see as big of a return on the amount of money that you're spending.
And to be fair, it's kind of like, well, I don't know what it's kind of like. I was going to try and make an analogy, and I suck at analogies. So let's pretend I didn't say it's kind of like I get it, on YouTube and on Twitter and everything else. You're hit some with microphones and this and that, but you are constantly hit with cameras, especially last year and this year. The new Canon, and then the C70, and then the R5, and then the R6, and then the A7S III, and the A7S this, and the A7S that, the new Sony FS5, and the FS6, and the FS. You're like constantly hit with cameras. You got a bunch of people using them and doing reviews on them and stuff. So your attention all goes to the cameras. And of course, why not have a better camera? But I'll tell you, if I could go back, and I did the right thing. I bought a really good camera, and then for years, all I did was work on my sound. When I started with my T3i, which now is like a paperweight, it still works. I was trying to gauge my channel, Basic Filmmaker, against people who were beginners. So I went out and get a Zoom H1, the old one, and I bled that thing for the levels, for the sound. How do I edit it? How do I sweeten the sound? I just bled every drop out of that. It's like $99 before I upgraded to the Zoom H2n. And there were a ton of them. And before I upgraded the Zoom H6, same thing. Before I upgraded to these Mix Pre things, I just bled every drop. Now I got a new camera. You know, I'm back to set it on. I don't know what I'm using now. What's the new cool profile all the cool kids are using?
Cinetone?
A Cinetone, which is basically P11 in your camera.
Yeah.
Took me a while to figure that out. But I set it up. I set white balance. I check it. I get everything done. Bam. And I'm shooting. Yeah. So if you need it, or if you want it, go drop the coin. If you're like, I don't know, blah, 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 really ask yourself the question, unless you got money and you want to spend it and you want a new camera, really ask yourself the question, have I really bled everything out of this camera? When you pick up your camera that you have now, are you still shooting in auto? Are you still like, I don't know what these buttons are? Are you still like, well, I haven't quite figured out the white balance? Do that first before you drop the money. Are you using a really nice T6i with some $200 lens? Go buy some glass and you'll be like, boom. Jake knows this. He's the one who got me to dump like $2,000 in glass. Talked me into it. Broke my arm.
Yeah, I really had to twist your arm there.
Hey, I got gear here. Hey, oh, here's one of the lenses. This is the one that you told me I should get. That's the 24 to 105.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason why I got that is because I already had a Canon 24 to 105 and I wanted that same thing, like where you focus from 24 to 105. And although it's f4, I think this is f4.
Yeah.
It there's a word for it. I hate using words that people don't understand. It stays at f4, which is great. If you're shooting in, out, etc., it's great. I got other stuff here. I got this too. Look at this thing. Yeah.
Oh, I'm jealous.
I got the, hey, there you go. It's this Rode thing. And I was like, yeah, I don't want another. Rode Go and the Ceramonic, blah, blah, and everything else. Ceramonic came out with a dual set, the Blink 500, which, is Ceramonic in here? No. It sucked.
That's what.
And then they came out with the Blink 500 Pro, and I was like, oh, man. So I got a hold of one of them. It's really nice. And the Rode Go, wireless Go, that's okay. From what I'm hearing about this thing rocks. Hey, what do you got?
Yeah, so this is the Lark 150, which is kind of Hollyland's take on the small portable Wi-Fi, but it has the two transmitters and stuff.
I was wondering about that.
So I just got it, and so far it's pretty impressive. It's bigger than the wireless Go 2 is, I know that, but it's impressive so far. Not bad.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Sunrise Water Media. When is Jake's course about ending live streams being released?
Soon, Sunrise. Soon. We're going to have the first lesson in about 38 minutes is when the first lesson on how to end a live stream will start.
Wow. Well, you're good at it. You really are. So is Curtis. So is basically everyone else. Well, actually, Nick Niman?
Yeah.
Him. I was watching one of his videos today. He said he has the same problem. He just keeps going and people ask questions and he can't stop. By the way, not to put you on the spot, I am sincerely interested about your new drone course and how that's going.
It's going. It's getting
Good.
closer, bit by bit. So I've because you and I chatted a little. It's so much work. Man. It's insane amount of work. And so you and I chatted, and I'd gone through and done a lot of the you say like the paper side of it, not paper, but the like presentation side of it. Mm-hmm. And then you and I chatted, and I realized I was like, I need to split this in a couple of different chunks.
Yeah.
So it's, or modules,
yeah.
depending on what you want to say. So Do you use Premiere to edit your stuff?
I do, and
Okay.
I was joking before about the editor thing, and you know me. If you're using DaVinci Resolve, great. If you're using Premiere, great. If you're using Avid, great. If you're using Vegas, Hit Film, great. If you're using iMovie and that gets the job done, great. Don't freaking care.
Yeah.
Just use what you got because, like cameras, the grass is always greener. Come over here. And everybody who spends 3 or 4 or 5 months goes, oh, yeah, it won't take you long to get over. Not.
Yeah.
And I've been using
No.
Premiere Pro since it wasn't Premiere Pro, I think in 1998, 2. So for me to switch, first, why?
Yeah.
Works? Doesn't crash? I get to make videos? Okay. Why would I switch? So why did you ask that question? No.
There's
I feel like you're setting me
Jude
up, man.
Cruz has asked what are some of our best beginner Adobe tips. I don't use Adobe products much. I use Photoshop a tiny bit and I use Lightroom a bit. But so I was curious if you had any tips for beginner Adobe
I have a ton of
people.
tips, but if we do that, you know,
I
then people
Jude,
will
I'll
be
give
like,
you
dude, you got to get that freaking talks too long in a live stream course up for Kevin because I got a ton of tips. There's some on my channel. If you go in,
that's a
there's a playlist in there, Premiere Pro. There's all sorts of simple stuff
That's what I
on
was
there.
gonna say. Probably the best tip would be go check out Kevin's channel and here I'll post the playlist in here in a minute. Tommy Calloway says he edits his video pixel by frame using Microsoft Paint. That's
Well,
got to be hard to color grade on
oh,
Microsoft Paint.
no, man. You just, you know, go like this.
Just-
That's good that
you just
Tommy
paint.
does that because actually now I want a class on how the heck does Tommy put out a bunch of content using Pixel Paint or whatever it is, Paint. Yeah,
Yeah, no kidding. I would like to know how he does that as much
me
as he
too.
does doing it that way because that's a lot of yeah.
And it's the same with editors, man. It's the same with cameras. It's the same with lights. It's the same with all this crap I got over here. I got a bunch of stuff over here in case somebody went, hey, show us some stuff.
Right.
If it works, like if you have lighting, I don't care if you have like go out and buy some of those $6 or $12 silver can lights. Go buy some good $12, $15 LED bulbs that are like 5500K or colored lights or something and stick it in there and put one
Yeah.
up there and put one over there and put one over there and hang paper over them and play with them and get your fill and key and your hair light and get that all down and get it looking good and get yourself off the wall. Maybe throw a light back there. That's all that is. Those are two $6 little silvery can lights with some $4 LED bulbs in. Throw some blue up there. And get really good at that. Then, when you go to buy lights, you'll know whether you want to spend $100 or $1,000 or whatever. Use your stuff. There's so many things you could do with just a phone and a couple of cheap lights. You could
Yeah.
you can rock it if you take the time. Setting some background lighting, getting a fill key and an overhead light, getting yourself the heck off the wall. Making
Yeah,
sure
creating
your
some
cameras,
separation.
yeah, making sure your camera's level and instead of looking down and up into it. Getting all the looking at the frame and seeing what's in it and if it's interesting or not and cleaning it up. You could do all that before you even talk about upgrading your iPhone to an actual camera, in my opinion.
Yep.
Anyway,
Logan, you asked what two lenses to buy for the Sony A7 III for landscape and weddings. I would get the Tamron 17-28 because it's affordable and it's a good lens, really solid lens for a landscape. That's what I use like 90% of the time. And then for weddings, I would get the 70-180 in addition to the 17-28 because then you've got nice telephoto reach. It works really well in low light and it'll give you a lot of options as far as, especially at a wedding, you're almost always trying, well, actually that's not true. I've seen a lot of photographers who clearly don't care that they're in they're part of the wedding party. Let's say that. I'm like, I've been to a couple. I'm like, they make lenses that zoom in. You could maybe try a couple of those because that would help the
Yeah.
rest of us.
Is it
So
it from because you do both? You're a photographer, and I'm not. I'm. I won't even go into. I just become brain dead when it comes to photography, which is really stupid. Since I've been doing cinematography and camera stuff for since some of these people have been born. But when you're sitting there going, "Hey, I'm going to go do a photography thing or a wedding thing," is that in your mind? Are you like, "Oh, I'm going to use this camera and these particular sets of lenses," and then you go, "Okay, I'm going to go out and now shoot some video." Do you now go, "Hey, I'm going to use this type of camera and this type of lenses"? Is that how that works for you, Jake?
yeah, in a lot of cases, that's how it works. The one thing I noticed, because there for a while I would go out to do something, for a business or something, and they'd be like, "We like to do some photos and we like to do some video," and shooting video and shooting photos is really different
Yep.
from both a lighting perspective, like in a setup perspective, and it really threw me for a loop for a while to be able to do both at the same time. I think it just took way longer than it should have because it was like, well, we've got to adjust this and this and this, and then whereas for video, it was a little different, setup lighting wise and stuff like that. I can't really even put my finger on why it was so different. You would think they'd be really close to the same, but they're not. And yeah, so when I'm going out to do photo work, or I know I'm going to do a lot of photo work, I will generally take more lenses with me. Like at least maybe two other lenses. So I have like the 24 millimeter G Master, the 17 to 28, and the 70 to 180, or maybe the 85 millimeter 1.8, just because to have some different focal lengths to play with. And yeah, when I'm just doing video stuff, or when I'm going to be doing mostly just video stuff, then it's almost always just the 17 to 28, and or maybe like a 28 to 75, which is the 24 to 70 kind of equivalent. Yeah,
Wow,
and I take way less lenses with me when I'm just going out to do video work.
interesting. I mean, in my book, props, huge props to photographers. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff you do and other people in photography, and I'm blown away. I mean, I've heard the opposite. While you're doing video and you're sitting there and you got 5 minutes and it's blah, blah, blah. I think it's the opposite way for a photographer. I mean, I have, depending on, maybe it's a commercial, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or a video, a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, to get the viewer engaged and interested, have them watch it, things they like and everything else. Whereas, and that's a lot of work, but for a photographer, you got one shot. Like when I'm walking along and I watch a movie or a video or something, there's a pattern, there's a story, there's something guiding me along, the audio's good. When you're doing photography, there's no audio, and you got this one shot. Either the picture looks really good and people are like, "Wow, look at that," or they don't bother looking at it. So from my viewpoint, although I think it takes more work, I'm probably wrong about that, to shoot a video or do commercials or something, I think photographers are amazing. They have one shot to come up with this gorgeous aesthetic picture, and I'm like, I salute you, photographers.
I I feel like I don't know. I mean I do a lot of landscape stuff, and the one thing about photography I will say that and this is why I will probably never do wedding photography if I can help it. I have friends that do it, and I've helped them do it as like a second or a third shooter from time to time. And I realized really quickly, like, man, photographers have a split second to capture the right shot, especially in a wedding thing. So like that first kiss, the first like look, all that stuff. It's like, it happens so fast. And if you're not ready for it, it's done and it's gone. Where I'm like, well, at least with video, you can just film and then clip out all the parts you don't need.
That's right.
It's just,
Well,
it was,
and I've been asked by some very interesting people who wanted to throw a lot of money at me to go film their wedding. I'm like, no, I freaking refuse. There's no take twos. There's no let's reshoot that. Like, if you miss it, you're the worst person in the world. Could you imagine shooting a wedding, bringing home the footage or the pictures? Something happens. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to talk bad. Get a car accident. That's terrible. Or, some giant bear comes and steals your freaking card or something like that. And you lost this person's wedding. You can't do that over again. You can't go, wait, let's come back tomorrow. And that's too much for me, man. I'm like, no, I'm not touching that. That's way too much responsibility for this life moment. No,
right.
no.
That's kind of how I feel. Now you got
Scares the hell out
Holloway.
of me.
There's like, he likes it. It's a fun day. He gets to party and have fun. And I'm like, it's way too much stress, man. I already have enough gray hair going on. I don't need more of it.
It literally, when I think about doing that, it scares the hell out of me. And I'm sure, like any other profession, when you get into it, you know what you're doing. You have backups. You have someone working with you with other cameras and everything else. And it's not even, well, will they like it or anything like that. Hey, if I shoot it, you better freaking like it. That was a joke.
That's right.
Oh, I forget. I forget I'm in your live stream, and these people are like, who the hell is this guy? These people come to my live streams, and they're like, yeah, his mouth is moving. He's probably telling a joke. It scares the hell out of me that this one moment that you can't ever get ever again. And if something happened or you missed a moment, the kiss, the ring, the I do's, the grandmother who's 101 years old you didn't think about, who came to the wedding that you didn't shoot, who's going to be gone later. That's too much, man. I would rather be on a set where they're dumping $300 million and screw up a day of shooting and screw up someone's wedding. No.
That's it. Yeah. You and me both. No. That's why I photograph landscapes. For the most part, they're pretty static and you can sit there and take your time and,
That's true.
Like,
and I'm not a photographer. I don't know how you do that. I mean, I don't get landscape. It's weird. I have this short circuit. I could film a landscape. I could film mountains. I could do that. I get out a camera and I just go stupid. I shoot landscape and I look at it, I'm like, a 5-year-old with their Instamatic camera could do better than this. There's a whole tech behind it that I've never studied, which I'm hoping for that course too.
one thing at a time.
Come on, man.
I knew a guy. I worked with him a little bit. It was a just absolutely incredible landscape photographer, and I always asked him, I was like, man, how in the world do you come back with all these incredible photos? And he's, you're like, just, you ever take bad photos? And he goes, the only difference between me and you is I take a few more good photos per roll of film than you do, probably. He's like, but other than that, you just never see all the bad photos I do take because I never show them to anybody. I was like, okay, all right.
That's
He's like, that's the only difference
photography.
between a professional and a non-professional. Is like the professional just knows you don't ever show anybody your bad photos. They just go away.
That's how I take photos. I mean, I'll probably stick a zoom lens on there, depending on it. And I just shoot. I mean, sure, I get it. Exposure, focus, blah, blah, blah. And I just shoot and shoot. And the signs on the bottom and down here and this and people and them and people drinking nice. And and then maybe I'll shoot. I'm making this up. This is probably not true, but maybe I'll shoot 1,000 pictures and 10 of them will be like, oh, those are pretty good. To me, that's photography, which basically tells you how stupid I am about it.
Well, no, but so I did have a friend who shot for, and this is back in the days of 35 millimeter film. You know, everything was film, no digital stuff yet. And he shot for National Geographic. He was a Canon sponsored or whatever guy. And I was talking to him about it because I was getting started down my photography, videography stuff. And I said, well, so when you go on these, you know, you go to Africa or wherever you're going to shoot this stuff for Nat Geo, what do you do? He's like, I take a few hundred rolls of film. He's like, and I hope for one good photo per roll of film.
Wow.
I was like, oh wow, that's a lot of.
And this is a guy with some serious creds.
Right. And but on the other hand too, like I'm looking at him going, okay, but half the photos you don't think are good, I'm looking at going, these are really good photos. But he's going through them going, no, this one is the best. Out of all of these, this one is the best. That's the only one that I'm going to use, and the rest are just not as good.
Who is the dude? There's some lady, I can't remember her name, but who is the dude? Ansel Adams? Is that the guy?
Yeah.
He takes the sticks and these big blonde hikes up into these beautiful mountains and takes these black and white pictures on film and has to protect the plates and the silver plate and the right blah blah and the right formulaic thing for the picture at the time, and he shoots this beautiful stuff. I'm like, dude, like, wow, dude. I see people do that, and I've seen people on various social media that are like, yeah, I don't like digital stuff. I just shoot on film. I bring a roll of, 200, 400, 800, 1600, and I just shoot. I'm like, what?
Yeah. That's
amazing.
So I'll say
Anyway.
I'm glad I started on film because
Yeah.
it does force you to learn the relationship between ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. And especially because the first camera I used was all just 100% manual. There was nothing automatic about it. And on that side, it was good. On the other side, I'm looking back now going, man, I threw away a lot of rolls of film that it was like, I accidentally got a good picture. That's cool. I have no idea why it's a good picture. I like it, but but that's the whole thing of like, as you go along, you're training yourself for your skills, but then you're also refining your palette, so to speak. You're training yourself on what good is, what makes a good image, what makes a good composition, what makes a good, in the case of video, what makes a good shot, what makes a good story in the shot. And it's just one of those things I always tell people, it's like, it takes time. It just takes time.
And it takes
the only way
practice.
you can, and the only way you can really develop a high or refine your, I say palate because the only way I can think of it is like the top end chefs, like they have these just incredible ability to taste food and tell what's good about it and all the little intricate details. The only way you can do that is by ingesting really, really good quality stuff. And so when people are asking me like, how do I get started? I'm like, the first thing you do is go out and look at all of the really, really good photographers that you admire or videographers or whoever. And I'm like, and then it sounds counterintuitive, but go out and try and copy what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because it's going to cause you to look at your own work through this analytical lens and try and figure out what somebody else is doing and what you need to do to mimic that. And then through that process over time, people will always kind of find their own bent, their own voice, their own way of doing things. But I just get kind of ticked off when people are like, don't do anything that's not original. I'm like, that's just not a good plan.
That's stupid.
It's really stupid. And it stops a lot of people, I think.
It stops people in music too. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the person stops themselves or they have some other butt running this on them. Like, oh, yeah, that sounds kind of like this Beatles song. And you're like, oh, that's not original. No, it sounds like this. It sounds like this. I don't care what you do. It's going to sound like something. And if I wrote a song and somebody came to me and said, hey, that sounds you're not copying. It sounds kind of like that Beatles tune. You should be like, whoa, damn. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what? There are a ton of people in here talking about drones, and they're going to hate me because we're not talking about drones. Let me say one thing. Anybody who's
Yes.
having a problem with making videos, I highly suggest You get off the gear, you get off all the BS. Everybody has a phone. Grab your phone, turn on video, and just go out and shoot. And I don't mean, bah. Just grab your phone, go find a flowery tree or waterfall and shoot it, some footage this way. Then walk over to the left, then walk up to it, then shoot down from it, then shoot from the left, shoot from the right. Take it home, bring it on your computer and look at it. How's the light look? How's the focus look? And if you keep doing this over and over, you develop through doing that. You have to get to the point where, I mean, this is going to sound stupid, but you have to get to a point when you're doing this stuff where you can see what it is you're doing. You can see good framing. You can see, oh, that sunlight coming through that waterfall is awesome. You can finally see what's in focus. And if you just keep doing that with your phone, you're going to be like a framing ninja. You'll eventually walk into a place with your camera and go, oh yeah, I should shoot from this side. Sun's streaming down. I can see the highlights in the water. As I pan to the right, those are going to, and then you'll just be able to shoot. You see other people do this and you're like, psh, that's how they did it. They just practice. Kevin, I don't hate you. You could talk about anything and it'll be interesting. Yes, that's one person. Woo!
Oh,
so let's talk about drones because you got a lot of
let's talk about drones for a few minutes.
There's a ton of questions in here about drones.
So I know Ben Lockwood asked if I'm liking the DJI FPV drone. So Ben, it's complicated. It would be less complicated if I didn't already fly FPV drones and I hadn't built like 20 of my own FPV drones. And so it's complicated. I do like it in certain scenarios. And then in other scenarios, I just really, really don't like it. But I will have a couple more videos coming out about it in the next week and a half that'll kind of break down some of the, what I see as the real strengths of it and the not so good things about it. And then also like, you know, settings, setup and stuff like that.
I know you could go in this for the next 2 hours, but just briefly, I mean, I'm a drone guy. Let me try again. I'm not a drone guy. I had a Mavic Pro 2 16B gold whatever, and I flew it 7 times. It's too much. I got the DJI, is it the Mini 2? The little cool thing. Flew that.
Yeah.
It's great. Like 10 times. So when you say it's too complicated, I'm like, what's an example of it's too complicated for you? Dude, is that your house?
No, so this is the cabin that I was at for the last few days with my family.
Wow.
And this was shot with the Mini 2. Mm-hmm. So this was about 10 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. I'm sorry for all of you who are not in Fahrenheit land here, but it's cold. Beautiful. It's like minus 18 Celsius or minus 20 Celsius or something like that. So my kids and I went out and stayed. This is my parents stay in this cabin, and my kids and I stayed in the other cabin that I showed you just a second ago. The Mini 2, I have to say, is a really powerful. This is GoPro, so don't think this is the Mini 2. But the Mini 2 is a really incredible little drone. It's insanely capable. The only downside is that it has basically no intelligent flight modes other than like the basic, you know, droney, the circle thing. But it is a great drone. If anybody asks me like, what's the first drone I should get? I really am pointing them at that because one, it's not too expensive. If you do happen to break it, it actually is pretty durable. It doesn't break that easily. You can go through props pretty quick, but the drone itself handles quite a few bumps and scratches.
I will attest to that.
I will. I mean, I broke a prop going in and out of my camera bag. I got out to fly somewhere and I was like, oh, well, I can't fly this because it's missing a whole prop. And
it's simple, it's easy, and it's a good way to learn. And you're not sitting there dorking $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 into. I love this thing. But with the FPV, which I'm not interested, I'm just curious. Like you say, there are some things that are too difficult. Like, for example, like, I don't know. Like, really, I don't even know how to ask the question.
Well, yeah, it is simple, and it does. I mean, everything you learn on a Mini 2 would translate to any other drone you fly. Because
FPV?
Well, to the FPV, it would be somewhat, because it is a similar control layout, and it just is a lot of things are a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, but it is the same. It is very similar muscle memory, and so in my upcoming drone course, somebody asked if it would be work for the Air 2.
Woohoo.
That is one of the things that I really encourage people to do is like, look, go out to a big wide open field and just start flying around slowly. Don't go fast, because the whole point of it in starting in a big open field and flying around is building your muscle memory. So you don't have to think about it as much when you're flying by,
Yep.
like I fly right around obstacles and stuff all the time, but it's because I have enough muscle memory built up that if I notice I'm starting to drift one direction or the other, or I'm going to hit something, I can correct it without having to think about it, because the muscle memory's there. The same is true with a musical instrument. Like, if you're having to think when you're playing guitar about how to create a certain chord, you've probably already passed the time when you were supposed to have played that chord. Like, you want to get to the point where you're proficient enough that you don't have to think about your finger position on one hand, and you can just think more about the feeling of the music. And
I drove people nuts when I was teaching them about cameras and filming and everything else. I drove them nuts, like absolutely crazy. I would not let them film anything until they could prove to me that they could go in and go, yep, set the white balance, here's the aperture, here's this, okay, there's the T. T is like aperture on a cinema camera. Here's the T, set that up, do that, oh, I want to change color profile, click, 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 click. I would make them do that over and over and over. Turn on the camera, turn off the camera, touch the back of the camera, fold out the screen, go into the camera, go to the white balance. Nope, that's not the right menu. It's right here. Okay, go into the white balance. I would sit there and do this with people for hours, sometimes days, until they were so skilled in handling this camera, they never had to think about it again. Same with musicians. I know one of my favorite musicians of all time, Chick Corea, recently passed away. Rest in peace, dude. I learned off of his early 70s stuff how to play bass and stuff like that. I know this guy, or knew this guy. And the thing that you don't know about someone, this guy's up at the top of the top as far as jazz, fusion, etc. This guy practiced all the time. All the freaking time. He practiced and practiced and practiced. And you look at a guy at that skill level, or your favorite guitar player or something like that, they practice all the freaking time. Now I look at him, I'm like, this guy has, what was he, 79 or 89 or something? He's been playing since he's been 15. He's at the top of his field, and he practices 2, 3, 4, or 5 hours a day, every day. And I was like, wow. I think it's the same with cameras and photography and drones.
Yep, I agree. So, okay, so the DJI FPV drone. I would say that if you're an FPV pilot, it's definitely not for you. If you really want to learn FPV stuff, then it'd still be better to build your own drone, because you are going to be fixing it. Like, you're going to crash it and fix it, especially if you want to actually do FPV stuff. So it'd still be better to build your own. If you just want to fly a little bit of acrobatic stuff, but mostly do that kind of swoopy, fast motion through around stuff, then that's where its really sweet spot is.
The DJI, the FPV?
The DJI FPV drone, yeah. And then, let's see, I know there was one other question about, it was up here, where was it?
Worth it or not. Hi, Andre.
Right there. Felipe asked, or said a few months ago, he asked me if he should get the DJI Air 2 as a second drone. And DJI is they registered a new Mavic Air 2S. So everybody's speculating about what that might mean. Yeah, and then hopefully later on this year, the Mavic 3. But I kind of wonder if they're going to do something new and different from the Mavic 3 and call it something else. The one thing about DJI is they don't seem to keep their naming convention for very long. They're like, it's the DJI Osmo Pocket. It's the Osmo Pocket. It's the Pocket. It's the Pocket 2. I mean, they're just like,
yeah.
could you just like
Put the names in a hat. Bingo!
It's like, we're going to come out with version 2 of this, but we're going to call it something completely different just to confuse people. And I'm like, holy cow. So, yeah. That I would say. I think and as far as definitely the DJI FPV drone, it's the new hot topic right now. I don't think it should be anybody's first drone. It's too limited. It's too specialized in what it does to be somebody's first drone.
Do you think if, like, I'm not buying one. I don't care. I don't want to. I really don't care. Now, if I lived in Alaska, bet your ass I'd have one. I mean, here I fly around fences in my little town, and okay, now we're bored. But do you think, let's say you're starting out, I get it. You should just get the, whatever I have, the silly DJI, was it Mini 2 or something like that?
Yeah.
Learn it, get good at it, and everything else. If really you're jonesing to get into FPV type stuff and play around, after that, then that would be good stepping stone if you're really into the FPV. Or are you still like, nah, screw it, build your own?
It's sort of a good stepping stone for people who have flown GPS drones a lot, the stabilized drones, and they want to transition more into the FPV side.
Yeah.
But if somebody really wants to jump into FPV, I think I would still recommend that they get I think I sent you a video clip of me ripping around a gymnasium with the little tiny FPV drones.
I was like, what?
I know that was so random when I sent it to you too. It was like out of the blue.
I was like, I showed my wife. She's like, who is this guy? I said, he's just amazing.
And it just, like, I still would recommend people go that direction. Get the little $200 FPV kit from, somewhere. And then learn to fly that way. Those things, they don't break that well. They don't break that easily.
Is that what they are?
And yeah, they're just little tiny FPV drones like this. If you they a $200 kit and you get a cheap, relatively cheap, but they're decent set of goggles and a remote controller, and they're small, they're safe. You can run around inside. I have ran into the back of my head doing that in that gymnasium so many times, and this is really going down a rabbit hole here. It is really a bizarre thing when you see yourself coming at yourself and you're going to run into the back of your head, but it is still a shock when it actually hits the back of your head, even though you watch the whole thing happen, because you're like, it's this weird out-of-body experience. You're like, oh, look, there's the back of my head. Whack. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's still, but anyway. All that to say, it's still pretty safe and just an absolute blast to fly. But so if anybody really wants to get into FPV, I still would kind of push that direction, even though. But the people I think the DJI FPV drone is for specifically are people who do not want to learn to build or fix their own drones. They do not want to learn how to program them. They just want to get a drone and go off and have fun flying. It is really nice to fly. With the goggles, the image in the goggles is just incredible, and so for that, it's definitely a really good thing if you want to just feel like you're flying around the neighborhood or whatever you happen to be around.
Sounds cool. Again, where I live, the type of stuff I do now, I mean, 5 years ago, probably 10 years ago, absolutely, I'd have 5 or 10 of them suckers around just in case. But now I'm like, meh. But I'm not into it. For somebody who's into it, that's really cool. But for me, it's more like it'd be kind of cool. Fly around, put some goggles, go upside down, go through things. But then I'd be kind of like done. But that's just me. But $200, really?
Yeah,
well, it turned me off because somebody said, oh yeah, $200, but I can only fly for a minute and a half. I was like, dude, I get my drone going. It takes me like 5 minutes just to figure out where the heck I'm going after the drone starts. Like, come on.
Well, yeah, a minute and a half, but it depends on how aggressive you fly. Like, if you're flying super aggressive, then yeah, a minute and a half, 2-3 minutes maybe. But you're flying more gentle, learning, 5-6 minutes that's more like normal. But yeah,
Hell, when I first got my drone and I was doing this, going back and forth, going up, trying to get some sticks and everything else, it was like, what was it, 22 minutes later, it was like, beep, beep, we're out of battery. I hadn't even gone over like 40 feet.
have I got a course coming for you?
Yes! I've been waiting for it. Every day I wake up and say, is that course done? Maybe not.
Yes. Every day I wake up and say that too. Is it done yet? Good Lord. What is taking so long?
Yeah.
So, so one thing I did want to talk with you about, Kevin, is, and then we'll probably wrap up the stream after this, and we've touched on it a little bit. You probably get the question a lot. I get the question a lot. When should should I upgrade my camera? I've got this camera. Should I upgrade to this camera? I've got this microphone. Should I upgrade to that microphone? And it's, part of your revenue stream from YouTube, if you do any sort of review work at all, comes from affiliate sales. So at the same time, you want to be like, yes, you should get it. Link down below. At the same time, we're both trying to steer people straight and make sure they're getting the best bang for their dollar. So in your opinion, when would somebody know that it is time for them to upgrade a camera? Not just because it's the latest and greatest, but they know they need to move into the next level, the next step to go to the next level, I guess, in their filmmaking or photography.
I think it's I don't know, I hate to say this, but you kind of just know. And I mean, not like, oh, it'd be really cool if I had a new camera. Jake's using this A7S III. It's pretty cool. I don't have that. I just have a 1080 camera. That's not no. So you kind of just know. And again, like I said before, let's say you have like this other person, I'm going to rudely forget their name. He has a T6i. It's a perfectly good camera. I think it's, what is it? It's not full frame, I don't think. No. Get some good lenses. Yeah, it's APS-C. Get some lenses. So what? Shoots 1080. Cool. Do you know all the buttons? Do you know how to set the white balance on that? Do you know how to take a shot like this and do the set work, do the lighting work? Do you know how to get that in there? Do you know how to do the footage? Do you know how to dial in, pardon me, that camera so it sort of shoots and sort of looks like raw? Sort of. And take it in, color correct it. Because you can't sort of do that by doing different settings. Do you know what all the different color things do? Or do you just stick it on auto? If you just stick it on auto and shoot it, or you're like a real badass and, sorry. And you stick it on manual and you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to use the standard this and the standard this, standard that. That's just fine. Are you able to take that camera out and actually get a good shot with it, handheld, of a waterfall? So you're like, that's epic. Are your lenses good? Is it sharp? Is it clean? Have you bled every inch out of that camera? At some point, you're going to be like, I really want to up my game, and I want to shoot in 4K, or I really want to up my game. I want sharper lenses. I want a bigger sensor. Yeah, I'm ready for that. To me, it's a no-brainer. That's what I did, again, with $99 H4n. I bled this thing. I used it for a year and a half, and I refused to buy something else. I'm like, no, it's a little bit noisy. I need to figure out how to take the noise out. I need to figure out, do the right level with this microphone, with the shotgun mic, with that shotgun mic. What about the lapels? This little tiny recorder. What happens if I put it in my pocket? Can I plant it on somebody? Can I use it? Like, I use this thing all over. Can I mount it on a boom? Put it on a boom pole, like a regular shotgun mic. Can I, like, how can I get away? And I, like, bled this thing to death until I got to the point where I couldn't learn any more about it. I knew everything about it, and I was ready to learn the next set of awesome features. That's when I made the leap. It's tough. It's really tough. But
Yeah.
when I got there, I went, Mixed 3. I'm done for the next 5 years. About 2.
Right. That's what most of the early videos, like probably the first 40 to 60 videos that I filmed on this channel, some of which are visible still and a lot of which are not. I filmed on an iPhone 6S with Rode had released a little plug-in microphone that you just plug straight in the headphone jack. And then I filmed probably another 100 videos for a different channel using the iPhone 6S. And I was like, I wanted to get a better camera. I wanted to get, interchangeable lenses and all that, because the only camera I had was still a film camera at that point, a little behind the times. But I was like, but the phone takes great photos. It takes great video. I don't really need to do anything else, not yet anyway. And so I just use the phone and the microphone. I did finally hit a point where, like you're saying, where I was like, okay, I need to jump into something else. And that right around then was when the Sony released the A7 III, so I jumped into that. But at the point I was like, I'm just going to use this iPhone 6. I think maybe I had a GoPro 4 from time to time too, that I was just like, I'm just going to use the crap out of these things and see how far I can go and see what kind of mileage I can get out of them. You don't get a lot of mileage with an iPhone 6S at 20 below 0, by the way. The
like
mileage
that
is
Yamaha bass guitar over there.
right.
It's a nice bass guitar, but I've been playing bass for a long time. But am I ready to go out and have someone make me my favorite bass guitar, which I used to have, a handmade custom Rickenbacker, for a one stereo bass, and spend $4,000 on it? My freaking bass guitar is sitting over there. So it might sound better, but most of the sound that I'm going to get is out of my fingers and the way I play and the way I adjust things. And when I've nailed that thing and I'm like, man, I just can't get the sound or do what I want to do out of it, maybe I'll upgrade. But I see guys doing this with, everyone does it. Sound gear, music gear, amps, cars, cameras, audio equipment, lighting. Some people, I don't agree with this, wives and husbands, they don't like work out. I'm on my 5th marriage. Well, you've had 5 times to figure this out. Like, come on. They haven't figured out how to use what they have or do what they have proficiently and then move on. And hey, if you want to jump in and drop, let's say you're into doing the live streaming, you want to drop $400 on a Shure SM7B, you want to drop $700 on a Mixed 3 and $5,000 computer and a few monitors and some extra screens, and there's some C-stands and some lighting over here and a big screen up here and a couple lights over here and all that kind of stuff, and you got the money to do it, go ahead. You have a huge learning experience. Drop the money now. Or use what you have, bleed every inch of it, and then upgrade. The problem is when you go, well, I don't really know everything, but I'm going to buy the next camera. Well, and the next camera and the next camera. Mm-hmm. That's where you just kill yourself spending a lot of money. If you got a lot of money, who gives a crap? Keep buying stuff. Supports the economy. Keeps our science going. Firemen like to get paid. Go for it, man.
Yep. I would say, and even if you do upgrade, the same things that you're frustrated with lesser gear, you're going to be frustrated with better gear. Because until you work out those things, it's almost always a skill issue or a knowledge issue over an actual equipment issue. But I will say, once you've hit the point where you've squeezed every inch of life out of your equipment that you use, and then you do upgrade, it is nice because all of a sudden your skills have room you can really kind of push yourself again, and your skills, and it is nice. It is really nice. So
it's great. Yeah, I mean, I saw a guy dump a ton of money into a camera system. Now me, I'm the guy, and I used to do this for a living. I would go on sets that were failing or commercials or films or whatever were failing. They'd call me in because apparently they think I have a big brain. I don't have a big brain. I'm not any smarter than anybody else. My superpower, I call it a superpower, is I boil it down to its basics, and I go, what's happening down here? All this confusion. Ah! There's something down here that someone doesn't understand. They're not applying. I mean, this guy that I was trying to help, really cool guy. This is the dumbest thing, and you just laugh at this, and you'll be like, well, that guy's stupid. He wasn't. He just didn't know anybody. He had invested, this was years ago, thousands and thousands of dollars into the cameras, trying to get the camera right. The problem is, he didn't understand white balance. He didn't understand how to set it. This is before we had a lot of YouTube and everything else. And once I just went, what's going on? Let's go to the basics. Do you know white balance? Do you know focus? Do you know aperture? And we found out that he just didn't understand white balance, and he would always set it off, or he'd go stupid or blank or whatever setting it. Once we figured that out, all those cameras he bet, it was like $12,000 worth of cameras. Now all of a sudden they all worked. So I'm like, man, if you have the basics and you know the camera, like Jake was saying, I'm sure it applies to drones. It applies to driving a car. I mean, when you first started driving a car, you didn't jump in and go, boom, drive. You practiced, and you understood the car, and you understood brakes, and you understood parking brakes, and all these things. You made mistakes, and you screwed up. And I think it's the same learning experience, and I don't care what it is, music, cameras, whatever. That's awesome. You know what? This would be more fun if we ranted about something.
That's probably true. We almost got there. Actually, I was thinking we've done really, really well at not ranting over anything too much.
It's a joke, people. Jake and I don't.
If you want to
rant.
see more fun and more ranting, which I'm sure there will be a load of, then you need to go subscribe to Kevin. I just put his channel link in the chat, because on Saturday I think there's going to be a fair amount of ranting happening when he does his live stream. But I will be there on Saturday hanging out with him, and it's a celebratory live stream. I think you might be able to win something. Is that true?
I'm doing a video which was supposed to be done today. And I didn't do any of it. It's scripted. And it basically goes, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through 25 things that happened to me. Here's what you do. Here's how you protect yourself. Here's all the crap you don't need to do and listen to. Here's all the stuff you should do. And then you're done, and you can move along. That video, just so now I have the facts and not all the opinions. And then on Saturday is a celebratory. I got my channel back. I'm going to have like 11 or 12 people on there. Nick Nimmin, Curtis Judd, Jake Sloan, some people in here, worth it or not. A few other people couldn't make it, like Jordy from Cinecom, guys who are just I'm friends with, and they're just awesome. They'll all be there for this, and I'll be doing giveaways. I'm going to do like Curtis Judd. Just stop, random number, and I'll give away stuff. I have one. I don't know if I'll give them all away. 1, 2, 3, 4, either 4 or 5 wireless HDMI transmitters.
Ooh.
I want to give it away to someone who's going to use it. And I'm going to say that. It's like, dudes, yeah. Like Jake, if I was giving away, $99 microphone, dude, you don't enter the contest. I mean, come on. Really. Unless you really needed it. So I'm going to try to, like, if you need it or you want it or something like that. But I'll be giving, like, stuff like that away. Microphones. Genius Link, if you're familiar with them. Just out of the blue. Just out of the blue. I didn't contact any companies. I didn't ask them. They said, hey, I know you went through a hard time and everything else. What do you want to, if you want to, you could deny. Why don't we give away, like, 6 free 3-month Genius Link things? I was like, wow.
That's cool.
I have 2 of those Deity, the little record on both things.
Yeah, the
I have two of
D4
those.
Duos.
I have two of those. I got one sitting on a shelf. Let's give it away to somebody who can use this stuff. I got all sorts of crap like that. Like my new HD 60s. Let's give that away. No way. And I'm just going to give stuff away to people who could possibly need it or want it. And because I'm not using it, it's just sitting there and I'm never going to use it. Now, there is some
Yeah,
stuff I will sell.
Right.
Not on
That's,
the live stream, but like some really expensive stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not giving that away. But that's what the live stream is all about. So it is, here's what happened. Here's what's going on. Here's a celebration. We're all done. Now let's stop talking about this. Let's stop even giving these hacker ers. Those were all my expletives.
I appreciate you beeping yourself out there because I don't have the beep button handy.
Yeah, another ounce of attention at all. They're just stupid. See you later, bye. And let's move along. Let's go again. And we're done. So there you go. That was that was the short explanation.
Short enough.
But yeah, you're welcome to come, win some stuff, see Jake, all these people. Some people have stuff to do. Okay. Like, don't cancel your wedding. Come to my stupid live stream, please. And I appreciate your, really, Jake, and many others, but I appreciate your support, your kindness. Like, this was a tough time, guys. I went over 4 weeks. I made this much money. I do this full time. 0. Imagine next month you get no money. Period. You're done. That's it.
Yeah.
Imagine you're ripped out of Google and ripped out of YouTube. You don't exist anymore. I mean, I disappeared. Boop. You have no way to contact anybody because your email accounts are all shut down. And then lovely people like Jake are like, hey, do you need any help? Can I help you in any way? Can I do anything? You have no idea, man. My wife saw me a number of times just get that little teary-eyed out of the unbelievable people like Jake and others that just reached out. I was like, wow. Anyway, thank you. I'm pump. I love you, man.
Feelings mutual. Hey, yeah, so on wrapping up the stream, man, Kevin, I really do appreciate you being here tonight and sharing your words of wisdom and your humor, because I like your humor.
Some people don't. It pisses some people off, but you know what? See how I did that?
Yep.
It means I love you, people who piss me off.
There are always people who are having a bad day and they take it out on somebody.
It happens.
And,
just cut them some slack.
Yep. So, other than that, this is it for the stream. I'm going to wrap things up and say thank you all for being here. Thank you, Kevin, for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to hanging out with you on the celebration on Saturday. We'll be here same time, same place next week. So if you want to or have more questions in between the time that I hopefully release at least 1 or 2 videos between now and next week. Other than that, I will see you then. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Be safe.
Okay.
And
before you cut off, hit the frickin' like button. And if you aren't subscribed to this channel, shame on you. Your moms, your dads, and your entire lineage are looking at you right now saying, shame on you. Subscribe to this guy. Hit that button. Hit that like button.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. On that, cheers, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you again soon in the next video.
Thank you, sir.